Hello. So today, since many of you have various inquiries and questions, I decided to make this video to address some of those points and hopefully provide some helpful answers for you all. Before starting the makeup, I'd like to kindly ask for your understanding, as there is actually a slight issue around the model's eye area today. Thank you so much for your patience. Before starting skincare regarding the base, one of the questions I received was, there's often a difference in skin tone between the neck and the face. At first, how should you match them? So, if you take a look, how does the model's skin tone look? It's a bit dark, right? But actually, there isn't a huge difference, though most people tend to notice the tone difference around here, under the jawline, compared to the center of the face. For women, since color makeup is applied, it's okay if the face is a little brighter. But if your neck is pale and your face is dark, then it's better to brighten your face to match your neck tone. But if your face is pale and your neck is too dark, then you can't really darken your face to match your neck. But if you make it exactly the same as your skin, it won't look very vibrant. So in that case, you should brighten it by about 1.5 tones and then choose what to use to adjust. Usually we use things like shading and blush together to help cover and balance it out. If you make the skin too glowy from the start, it won't last long. So in those cases, you need to decide based on the condition of the skin. The model's skin is very thin and firm, but her nose and forehead are a bit oily. In this case, first, you need to decide whether you create a glow with skincare and then apply a thin layer of foundation for your base makeup. You have to plan ahead whether you'll focus on the skincare step or if you'll achieve the look with your base makeup using the type of foundation or other products like a stick highlighter. When you cleanse your face at first, you should also wipe between your eyebrows more thoroughly than you might think. There's often buildup in this area, so just apply a moisturizing lotion or cream all over. Personally, I usually groom my eyebrows after doing my skincare. If you ask me why, it's because I feel that when my skin is prepped with skincare, using an eyebrow razor is a bit less irritating to the skin. So I do a bit of skincare, groom my eyebrows, tidy up once more, and then move on to makeup. When you use your hands, you can really feel the contours of your face and better sense how the product is being absorbed. However, it can take a bit more time, and if you use a sponge, there is a bit of product waste. There is some waste, but it allows you to apply the product quickly and evenly, and it doesn't rub off as easily. So after applying skincare with my hands, if I feel like it might rub off or it feels a bit uncomfortable, I recommend spraying something like a mist and then patting it all over your face. After doing that, when you start your makeup, it really doesn't rub off easy. As for the cream and ointment, about a 1:0.5 ratio. You shouldn't use too much ointment. Mix them together a little and then apply a thin layer at the final step. It's also good to apply it to areas where you have flakiness or dry patches. The advantage of this is that your makeup won't rub off. There are people who say, I'm really dry all day and end up applying a lot of face oil. But if you do your basic skincare like this, they say they didn't feel dry all day, except for the nose and forehead. That's because those areas can get oily, so focus on the dry areas like around the mouth and cheeks. There were actually a lot of questions about eyebrows. People say eyebrows are difficult. Of course, the shape of the eyebrows is important, but the hardest part is finding the right eyebrow shape for a person's face. Usually, one side is thicker and the other is thinner, and the muscle movement here isn't that strong. The eyes are round, right? Then you can think of shaping the eyebrows to follow the curve of the eye. But some people have muscles here that are so flat that their eyebrows are straight from the start, and the ending is so beautifully captured. The texture, in that case, you don't have to forcefully change. You see this beauty mark here. We learn to draw the lower line first, right? As long as the end here doesn't go lower than that point, it's fine. But in this case, you know the muscle that sticks out from the brow bone to the temple? Some people have this area that protrudes a lot. In a way, it gives the face a longer appearance. For people whose muscles here are very developed, even if I draw it precisely, from the front this area can look square and the tail can appear really thin, almost like a thread. In those cases, you need to turn the model's face to the side in the mirror and make sure to check it. Otherwise, when viewed from the front, the tail will look too thin. When trimming the eyebrows, you first brush them in the direction of the hair growth, and then, using this as a reference point, you trim the lower part straight across so it doesn't droop. There are some longer hairs on top. They go back and forth like this. Sometimes these hairs cover the area and make the eyebrows look fuller. When you lift it up, you can see the area underneath. You don't need that part either. So you need to trim inside as well. You tidy up the messy hairs underneath. But if you don't trim the hairs inside, the tail of the eyebrow often keeps drooping. Usually, people use a blade about this size. But for people whose bone structure protrudes quite a lot, it's hard to insert the blade like this. In that case, here's a tip. Go from the bottom up, but you have to be careful when doing this. If you're not careful, you could shave off too much, so you need to be cautious. Let's say this is the most protruding part. There's a peak, and it's narrow. So what happens then? It means that from this point, all of this area is the temple. The face will end up looking kind of diamond-shaped like this. Doesn't it look like a rhombus? Then the side cheekbones will look even more prominent. In that case, what you need to do is be able to move the peak back a little bit yourself. So you have to figure out where this person's most protruding part is, where the side cheekbones are, and what the length of the face is. I want to move the peak back. The position of the peak. So what should you do in that situation? First, you shave down this part like this. When you shave here, how should you do it? You need to lift this angle a bit. What happens if you shave it down too much like this? Let's go forward, right? You need to lift it slightly. And when you want to bring it forward, you need to lay it down a lot more. This eyebrow is a bit higher, so I'm lowering it a little. But what's important here is that there are no hairs on the peak area, just 1 or 2 strands. What happens if you shave this part wrong? The eyebrow can end up looking like it has a hole. This much of it. For everyone, the middle part of the eyebrow is where the most hair is. So if you accidentally cut this part off, it can really end up looking straight across. When trimming eyebrows, you really have to relax and cut them just as they are. All right. Look here, now we're going to start with the base. When you apply the base, it tends to get rubbed off along the hairline, around the brow bone, and in areas where the bone and skin are close together, places where there isn't much flesh or muscle. The cheekbone area here also tends to get rubbed off easy. Or, if the toner hasn't been fully absorbed, and you apply ampoule or lotion or anything else on top, the hairline area ends up getting wet. Then the base tends to rub off around the hairline. So, the toner should be absorbed first, and then you should apply skin, lotion, ampoule, and so on in that order. If you think the base might rub off in some areas, just pat it in. You really need to get the first tone right. So, I'm going to use Clio No 23 foundation. And as for BB cream, my absolute favorite is Cell Fusion C. The reason I use this is because it has just the right amount of oiliness and it doesn't make your skin look gray when applied. First, you usually have these kinds of tools, right? The Mitsuyoshi sponge is good too. A damp sponge or just a matte sponge. But if it's a matte sponge, I use ones with a coated surface, like Mitsuyoshi. What's the difference? A damp sponge gives a nice glow. It's soft, but the adhesion is a bit lacking. And then there are these sponges, the matte ones. The advantage is that they adhere well. The downside is that they absorb a lot of the skincare you apply. So if you pat too much, it can become matte for people with dry skin. It can accentuate dry patches. When you use a hydro sponge, you have to squeeze out all the water really well. If there's moisture left, the adhesion drops a lot. For the first layer, just think of it as evening out your tone a bit. Apply it like this and pat it in as you go. I just sweep it on a little bit, like this. This area doesn't have enough product applied. In that case, I just use what's left on here and apply it like this. What about making it look dewy and glowy? You go from the center of the face outward. What about powder, shading, or matte sponges? From the outside in, especially for the first layer, you shouldn't take too long. Some artists use a brush to blend it out so there are no streaks left. But I don't do that. I just use this like a spatula for application and then blend it out with a sponge. Oh, how do you do this? For this, you need to use wrist tension to pull and blend it. And you have to watch with your own eyes as it adheres to the skin. But people don't actually watch this process. Usually they just apply it like this and leave it. Or they start applying from here and then move on from there. The sponge just soaks it all up. It ends up looking patchy. And it doesn't adhere well. Do you know where it comes off the most? Right here, next to the nose. Exactly along the shape where it touches, you get a clear line right here. That means it hasn't adhered properly, it's over. When it comes to base makeup, just think of it as covering every bit of skin on your face. Here's another tip. What about the other side of your face? It's hard to see, right? That's why you can end up with patchiness when you do shading. If your base is too thin, it can get patchy. So I actually apply a bit more and connect the first layer all the way up to the front of the ear. That way, you don't need to apply more when you do the second or third layer. After all, you're supposed to apply it thinly at the back anyway. But if it's too thin, the shading doesn't go well. It just ends up looking patchy. At this point, if you hold the brush more upright, it applies more thinly. You don't touch the nasolabial folds or the area around the eyes. I'll pull and blend it upwards as I go. But for the center of the face, it shouldn't be too thick, but it still needs to have good coverage. In that case, instead of dragging, tap it in place to make it adhere first, then blend it out. It's a bit different from the outer areas. For the outer edges, you sweep and blend it out. But for the center areas, you apply it by tapping. That way, it adheres better and gives you coverage without having to use too much product. From here, as you go up, just tilt the angle of the sponge to the side. You can apply it into the inner corners of the eyes, but usually people don't change the angle. They just do this, they look up and sweep it like this. If you do it that way, you won't get enough product applied. For the eyelids and around the mouth, just apply a thin layer. You know, people do things like some regular clients who want heavy coverage really want it thick. With this method, it's just not possible. The most important thing on the side is, you know the spot where glasses leave mark. Cover that area, and for the sides of the nose, twist the sponge a bit. That way, it gets into the pores well. There are some slightly dark areas on the eyelids. In this case, apply the foundation a bit more thinly. This area where creases form tends to look dark. To keep the eye socket area from looking sunken right here under the eyebrow, cover it like this. A concealer like this, either a cream type or a liquid type, is fine. It's the same foundation mix, but some people have been asking about this soy sauce dish. Why do you think I use this? Usually, people use a glass palette, but glass can break. Since the rim is like this, like a small dish, it keeps the liquid from spilling. Some people have darker skin around their eyes. For people with darker skin here, you need to cover up to this area. Press it in gently just as it is for better coverage. Some people say that their base makeup comes off when they apply primer. If you use a sponge, it doesn't come off as easily. Some people say their eyebrows look patchy when they draw them. This is really important. I make my brows matte with powder, to the point where the powder dust almost flies everywhere. I also apply it thoroughly under the eyes, and I think it's okay if it reaches a bit lower too. The important thing is, when you do your eye makeup, don't just apply it high up at the outer corner. It shouldn't be high here. Would you like to try it out? When you open your eyes, it's best if it doesn't go above this area. Stop right about here. Next, the second step is the mid-tone. I also think there's no need to obsess over making the midtone super vivid. If you use brown because you're worried about puffiness, it can actually make things look a bit dull. You really don't have to do that. Colors like these, if you have these two, they're great for daily use. This one has a peachy tone, so you can use the peach shade too. Just use this second color and apply it kind of roughly as well. The most important thing is that the eye socket itself slopes downward like this. If you feel around back here, you'll notice the eye socket ends much sooner than you think. That's why I say not to apply it too high. And if you want to extend this area further, when you want to elongate the eyes, in that case, just apply it roughly up to the outer corner of the eye. Take the second color you applied to the double eyelid and use the same color on the front part of the lower lash line as well. As you slightly connect them, make sure the ends meet and extend together. If you want to lift it at this point, then what do? You haven't extended the top yet. Start at the bottom and blend up. If you want it longer horizontally, then what do? When you first apply the underbar, you should apply it like this, not like this, like this. Just connect it with the outer corner as well, in the direction you want. But if you try too hard to shape it, it ends up looking tacky. Whether you want to lift it up or make it horizontal, it's enough if it just gives a subtle hint of being applied that way. If you try too hard to define the shape, it looks tacky and makes your eyes look harsh. Usually you have one eyelash curler shaped like this and another small one like this. These are the two most common types, but if you use both, that's the best. But sometimes, oh, you forgot to bring the small curler. That happens sometimes. As for choosing an eyelash curler, I usually use the Shiseido brand the most because its curve fits my eyes best. But there are people whose eyes are flatter, flatter than this curve. If your eyes are flatter than this curve, you can use a different brand that fits better. But if you're not sure about other brands, just use a small curler to curl your lashes section by section. If you use the curler incorrectly, first, your mascara will smudge. Second, your lashes will droop quickly. And third, when you're preparing to apply false lashes, this step is the most important. So depending on whether you're going to attach the lashes to the waterline, fill them in between, or place them on top, the curling method changes. There's the upper side, right? Here's the top. And then there's this upper surface here. You just need to understand this well. First, if you have your lashes, you put them all in. Let's say the width of your lashes is about this much, and you've put them in. Then, after that, you need to gently push the skin upward with the upper surface like this. So what happens then? The skin will be pushed up like this as you go. But the most important thing is after you put them in, you need to lower the curler so that it touches the skin here. After that, you need to flip it up like this. But usually, people try to lift it as they close the curler after putting it in. So what happens then? The curler moves away from the roots. Then your lashes get bent. The roots aren't fully intact, so using a curler is tricky. It's because people do it out of habit. All right, let me try it on the model's face. When I use a curler, I put my hand behind. That's because I really don't want to raise the temperature too much at all. The base is already set high, so I put my hand behind, but where you lift from is also... What happens if you grab too low? The curler can't get in. If you grab too high, it won't lift. You have to find just the right spot. So overall, it's a bit audible. It's not good if only this part is lifted. Make sure the whole area is just slightly lifted. First, insert it and lower it. Insert, insert, and after lowering it, it's set. What happens if you do it like this? It lifts up, right? But try pressing it down a little. At that moment, press the roots firmly. You're not pulling it forward. You're just pressing down on that spot. And when you pull it out, just grab the roots. And as you gently pull forward, if you go more than halfway, it doesn't come out well. If you curl it all the way to the ends, it'll curl up like a fern. If you try it like this and it doesn't catch, just firmly pinch the roots again. Shall we try lifting it once? It lifts up like this. You can use a small curler, but if I show you how to use a big curler, what do you do when you curl the back part? You need to lift this part, right? At that time, pull it from the back toward the front like this. It sounds like this. For the front, just pull from the back to the front. But some people have really strong lashes that stick straight up. There are people whose lashes cross over each other the moment they use the curler. For those people, you need to use the curler with a much lighter touch and do it gently several times. If you just clamp down hard because it's not curling right away, this is what happens. The lashes, they won't straighten out. That's it. It's over if that happens. You put it in and then let go, right? You lift it up. Just press that spot several times too. 3-4 times and then release. Shall we try it once? It didn't curl up enough, right? Just the roots. In this case, just the roots. Try curling it again. Then it went up a bit. But if you feel like the curler isn't giving enough lift overall, for example, with models, the lashes on this side tend to lie down like. In that case, what you can do is brush them slightly to the side from the start. And then when you use the curler, you can tilt it a little to the right as you curl. But since it can go wrong easily, it's better to fix it later with a clear mascara. All right, now I'll apply the false lashes. The very first lash at the inner corner might be a bit short. Sometimes it doesn't even show up well in photos. So usually the third one from the inner corner works best. Personally, that's how I do it. When applying false lashes, make sure to put the glue on precisely. If you use too much glue, your eyes will feel tired. But if you use too little, they'll fall off quickly. After lifting it, you need to first check if the angle is ready to start fanning out and see if it's raised enough. Then attach the rest of the lashes in the back carefully. These days, we don't really attach false lashes all the way to the outer end. It can look a bit old-fashioned if you do. Remember how I mentioned the model's natural lashes lean a bit to the right? So even if you attach the false lashes, they might keep getting pushed to the right. That's why, after attaching them, before the glue dries, you should gently guide them in the direction you want. Even when I'm shaping the lashes, I lift them and then adjust in the direction I want. Now, for eyebrows, I usually use these 3 types of brushes. I use these 3 types. But there are actually a lot of these, but this one shouldn't be too stiff either. I said earlier that this part shouldn't be lower than here, but usually when we draw, we start from the bottom line. That makes it really easy to create a sharp line. It's perfect for making your nose look longer. Look at people with long faces. What do you think? The eyebrows are higher here, right? So this part is lower, isn't it? That means the bottom line looks like this from the start. What if it looks like that even without drawing it? So as long as this part doesn't go lower than here, I draw the back part first. I draw it further in than where the hair actually grows. Because the moment you shave this hair, the shape of your eyebrows can suddenly change, or you might end up with a gap. That's why if your eyebrows are nicely groomed, I start by drawing only the inner part first. And if needed, you go up line by line, and then go down line by line. It's also good to brush them upward like this. But if you do this the wrong way, you can end up with harsh lines. So when I fill in the top, I tilt the pencil a bit to the side and fill it in like this. Now, I'll apply mascara. But some people get scared when the brush comes toward them like this. For those people, I tell them to look down while I lift their lashes and apply it. But if they're comfortable, they just keep their eyes open and I apply it. First, I place the brush at the roots in the front and wiggle it a bit. Then, I lift it straight up as if I'm attaching the lashes to the brush. I use 2. If you turn on the fire and toast the bread, you can't use a turbo lighter. After turning it on, turn it about this many centimeters so that you can turn it off just this much. But if customers or someone say they're scared, I always do it like this here. I say it's fine, but inside I'm thinking, it's hot. Lift it up slightly, lower it, and wrap it together with this. Then, lift it up straight, first raising the skin a little, and then place this underneath. After that, you attach these 2 together, and then you wait. Why? So that this fur and my fur stick together completely. And then, for the left shoulder to be fixed, you only lift this one up like this. That way, the curl goes up beautifully. I've lifted the eyelashes. If they look too lifted and you want to lower them, then, just like when you use a curling iron on your hair, you wrap them around like this. This is the support. This is the heat. So I told you to lift it up like this, right? As you lift it, what do you do with this? You bring this one down like this, wrap it around like this. Then it will look like this. Now, after you gently press and lift like this, as you lower it, earlier you fixed the left side and lift it to the right, right? This time, as you lower your left hand, wrap it around with your right hand. Lowering it is easy, but lifting it is difficult. If you use the curler incorrectly from the start, it's really hard to lift it up. But let's say you want to lift it up strongly. In that case, use a slightly stronger flame, assuming you've already applied mascara. At this point, apply even more heat to the roots than before. So you kind of pull it upward like this. Then the back part will lift up tightly again. It's like you're loosening the curl a bit. But once it's been heated, it's hard to change. So if you mess up with a heated curler, it's not good. That's why this eye is a bit bigger than the other, and there's no extra skin here. The eye is more open. In that case, I use a slightly different eyelash length and adjust the angles as well. It might look like I'm just curling the lashes without thinking, but I'm actually adjusting all the angles. Let me explain about the tail as well. The skin of the tail, this back part, is actually slightly tucked in more than you might think. So if you connect it to the waterline and draw it together, where does it end up? You can't see it from the front. It gets drawn inside here. If you connect it to the waterline in here, it will definitely smudge. That's because this is the part that touches when you close your eyes. That's about it for the eyes, so now I'll finish up the base. Actually, it's best to use 2 types, like a cushion and something else. Take a light-colored foundation, about shade 15, apply a little of it, and then mix it slightly with what's left over. Then, I'm going to use a damp sponge. Since the center should be the brightest and prettiest, I start applying from here. Connection. Don't touch the nasolabial folds, under the eyes, or around the mouth. You don't have to apply it all the way out here. For the second step, since we've already applied the first tone earlier, while doing that, move forward. From the back to the front, in the center, just press gently with the remaining amount, and many people also apply it to the sides of the nose and the forehead here. Right now, I applied a line right here on top. You need to come down while using just this amount. Usually, when people are told to apply it, they go all the way up to the eyebrow. You shouldn't do that. And you shouldn't draw along the hairline like this either. Don't use anything too pale around the mouth. It's better to just use a color that matches the base you've already applied. You see this area down here? You absolutely have to apply it here. If you don't apply it underneath, the shading will easily get patchy later. For moist products, you go from the inside out. For dry products, from the outside in. But if you've applied a liquid foundation and then put powder on top, what happens? It'll get cakey, right? You start from the back and move forward, right down here. From here, cover everything. Up to where When you look in the mirror, go up to the area behind where you want your jawline to look like a V-lining or one feels dryness there. It's prettier when your forehead doesn't look shiny. And if your brow bones are very prominent, you absolutely need to tone them down with powder here. I don't apply much to the side cheekbone. If you overdo it on the side cheekbones, it can actually make the area under the cheekbones look sunken. So just keep it natural. If you look at the nose, usually this part sticks out. For those who haven't had nose surgery, for people who have had nose surgery, this area usually looks very smooth. There's no shadow on this side. So while nose shading under the eyes is important, since that's already common, I want to show you how to do it at the tip. Why do we shade the tip? When there's a shadow here, it makes this area look darker. And as soon as you extend it to here, this area becomes even more widely shaded. First, apply it under the nose and then gently pull it inward like this. This reduces the width of the nostril. But sometimes one side is darker and the other is lighter. It's asymmetrical. So if this side is shaded more widely and darker, then you can just bring this side up a little more. Then when you look in the mirror, it looks like it's connected from here to here. After lifting it like this, the next step is what we call osteotomy. They say it's broken. You break the wall by the nose. Be careful with the bump here. If you accidentally brush against this area, your nose will stand out even more. While breaking it, wrap around the nostrils as well. But what happens if you apply nose shading too heavily? If you come up with oil, it will later become koshibaduk, like a spotted dog. It turns really dark. Now, I'll try adding a bit of aegyosal under eye fat. I'll use a soft glossy pearl and it's better to start right under the pupil. If you accidentally apply it to the inner corners or areas like that, the light reflection can make your eyes look lifted and a bit closed off. Earlier, I applied it right under the shadow here. You should apply it just a little below that, about 2 shades lower. After carefully shaping your eye contour with shading, what happens if you apply it close to the lashes here? All the shadow disappears because of the shimmer. So start applying it just a little below, leaving a small gap. As you move forward, don't follow the upward angle too much. Instead of going up like this, since you already created the shadow here, go horizontally and naturally extend it straight to the end. Don't get too close here, and starting from below, don't go up too much here either, just keep it looking natural. And you know how you highlight the inner corners of your eye? Some people find that part difficult. For that, with your brush lifted, just tap right at the front here to apply it. If you just press it on, the shimmer sticks really well. If you sweep it on, it doesn't work as well. After applying it like this, when you're working on the upper part, don't go in a straight line your eye has a curve, right? Follow that curve gently, and then lightly connect it underneath to the aegyosal area. What happens if the inner corner is too defined? It can make your eyes look puffy and messy, just up to here. Make the outer part look natural and soft. Then lay the brush flat. So when you apply a little underneath, don't make the thickness the same all the way to the end. After that, gently blend it out with a brush. You also need to bring this part down a little bit. For the lips, gently press them with the foundation sponge you used earlier and lightly define the cupid's bow. If you apply too much gloss to the cupid's bow or the outer edges of your lips can end up looking messy. Use a concealer pencil or the sponge you used before to tidy up the lip line a bit. That way, even without using a lip pencil, you can make your lips look as if you shaped them with one. Hello, everyone. All right, with that, we'll wrap up today's lesson. Great job, everyone. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video. I hope you have a wonderful day.